Hi, good day. I will be your discussant for today's lesson. Let me go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Christy Angel Enavera, and we're going to discuss how the internet and game impact education. Before we proceed with our discussion, let us go ahead and identify what are the learning objectives that we need to learn after this discussion. So first, we must understand the importance of internet as an educational tool. Second, emphasize educational implications of the internet. Third, demonstrate understanding reality of the internet and education. And lastly, describe the impact of game on education. So, I know that you're already aware of this lesson since we are already living in the 21st century. And as a 21st century teachers, we must be aware of the tools or the technology that are currently present in this era so that we'll be able to fully optimize and use it in our daily life learning activities. And basically, we are up to date and we know what are the things that are on trend that we can actually put into connection with our discussion or our lessons when we are discussing some usage of information to our students so that basically they'll be able to relate. So first, the internet as an educational tool. Hmm. So how will you be able to say that internet is an educational tool? So let's go ahead and identify that one. Internet has always been inherently educational tool. Indeed, many people would argue that the main characteristics of internet align closely with the core concerns of education. So basically, internet is an educational tool or inherently an educational tool because we were able to gather some informations, and usually when we don't have any references to check a certain new sets of information, we always rely on the internet wherein we will be able to get some details or verifications for the new sets of ideas that we wanted to confirm if it's really correct or if there is like an accuracy to the one that we are actually hearing coming from different people, or if we just want to confirm something. So it is people would argue that the main characteristic of internet is aligned closely with the core concerns of education. For me, if we're going to fully optimize and use internet in a correct way, basically this would be definitely 100% correct. Because as of now, we all know that the accessibility of the internet, students are very much dependent, same as teachers, to the internet in gathering some new sets of information. But we need to be careful of the what do you call this, some wrong informations, falsifications that are actually going around in the internet, because not all things that we read through the internet are correct. So we must know what are those sites that are verified and basically the one that's really provide the correct information. The participatory communal nature of many social internet applications and activities is aligned closely with the fundamental qualities of how humans learn, not less the practices of creating, sharing, collaborating, and critiquing. Internet isn't just a powerful tool for communication. It's arguably the most potent force for learning and innovation since the printing press. The implications of internet for education and learning can be understood in at least four distinct ways. First, it is the potential of the internet to offer individual learners increased freedom from the physical limitations of the real world. Secondly, the internet is seen to support a new culture of learning. For example, learning that is based around bottom up principles of collective explorations, play, and innovation rather than top down individualized instruction, which is according to Thomas and Celie Brown, 2011. Thirdly, the capacity of the internet to support a mass connectivity between people and information is felt to have radically altered the relationship between individuals and knowledge. Lastly, the internet is seen to have dramatically personalized the ways in which people learn, thereby making education a far more individual, determined process than previously the case. The educational implications of the internet. The internet has certainly promoted ongoing debate and concern within the educational community. On one hand, many educationalists are busying themselves with rethinking and reimaging the notion of the school and the university in ways that responds to the demands of the internet age. There has been various proposals over the past decades for the development of educational institutions that are better aligned with the characteristics of internet adept learners and online knowledge. However, the contrast to this reschooling proposal has been a counter movement to align the internet with more radical forms of educational deinstitutionalize. These deschooling arguments have proven popular with groups outside the traditional educational establishment, reframing or framing the internet as capable of usurping the need of educational institutions altogether. The reality of internet and education. So first, the internet and the increased individualized education. First, then is the way which internet-based education promotes an implicit individualizations of practice and action. The internet is celebrated by many educationalists as increasingly the responsibility of individuals in terms of making choices with regards to education, as well as dealing with the consequences of their choice. Second, the internet and the growth of data driven education. Another significant issue related to the increased educational significance of the internet is the ways in which online data and information are now defining as well as describing social life. The internet has certainly extended the significance of database, data mining, analysis, and algorithms, with organizations and institutions functioning increasingly through the ongoing collections, aggregations, and reanalysis of data. So, we all know that there is really a growth of data driven education in the internet. There are a lot of information that we can actually gather there. However, we must always be responsible because the informations are now defining as well as describing our social life. Sometimes we are being dependent what we see on the internet. Like for instance, if there is a specific things that we actually see, we tend to copy it, especially if it's a new trend. However, we must always understand that we must know if it's really beneficial for us since we will be able to gather some informations there. That is why the database or the data mining analysis and algorithms with organization and institution functioning increasingly through the ongoing collection, aggregation, and reanalysis of data, because not all we see in the internet are true. Sometimes there are false informations. Basically, there are just trolls who just wanted to put something there, but not all things that you see in the internet are true. So it is true that we'll be able to gather it. However, as a responsible individual, you must choose the correct site or the most reliable source of informations, since we will be able to identify or really cross-check if those information are really correct or if they're just there to cause confusions or whatnot. Third, the internet and the increased commercializations and privatizations of education. Thirdly, it is the need to recognize the role of commercial and private actor in the growth of internet-based education. Indeed, the role of private sectors is integral to many of the forms of internet-based education described in this chapter. So let's go ahead and identify what are the impacts of games on education. One of the impact of games on education is improving the cognitive abilities. Mm. What can we say wherein we improve the cognitive abilities? So basically, this pertains that students or specific learners were able to improve their way of thinking ability because of games. So since basically games is very, what do you call this, fun, and at the same time, if it is educational, basically the child will be able to think what are the good ways in order for them to do something on this one, because it really improves the cognitive ability of our students or learners. Improving creativity. I agree with this. Actually, I have a lot of toddlers or nephews, niece are very good at games, especially if they're really working in creative games. They're really improving their creativity, wherein they try to recreate things that they actually see on the internet, and they're very imaginative, and they're trying to integrate what they actually think based on what they saw on a specific video or games, or for instance, like those videos that are actually going through the internet. Third, development of logic. I actually agree to this. We will be able to develop logic whenever they're trying to um, do some games there. Fourth, development of skills necessary for future work. So basically, games really do integrate some development skills which is necessary for the child when they are growing and when they're already applying those skills that they learn in the real world, wherein they're trying to connect them with the work that they're trying to have. Fifth is development of thinking and memory. So very self-explanatory. So that's it. Thank you so much for listening to my lesson, and I do hope that you were able to get something for the discussion that I have discussed for today. Once again, my name is Christy, and have a good day for all of you. Bye for now.